Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this July 6th, 2016 day on our calendar. I'm your host, Greg Anthony. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com. You can listen to my show every evening from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. on FirstAmendmentRadio.com. That's Pacific time. They also play the show at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And if you can't listen to those two shows, you can always go to my long-standing website that's been around for over a decade at arcticbeacon.com. Okay, yesterday I presented a show. I wanted to hear from a man from Iceland who was talking about the premise that the New World Order is not a conspiracy theory. And I played about 25 minutes of it, and he did some wonderful research going way back in time, hundreds of years, and that's the way to really do it. But I wanted to mention this, that you can put the hat on a lot of different people in these secret societies and how they all mesh together. But without an understanding of how the Vatican and its Jesuit order, at least since the 1500s, has been really controlling what is going on in the world, or trying to, doing it in any measure of ways, meaning that anything goes as far as killing anyone. It's not a crime as far as canon law if you kill a heretic. So the point I'm trying to make is anytime you start looking at the tentacles of the New World Order, which is really an old world order, it's been around a long time, and you look at the politicians who talk about it, you look at the signs that a new world government's coming into play, and then you start going back in history and looking at all the revolutions, all the wars being orchestrated. It is a huge mistake not to uncover one of the final layers of the onion, and that is the Vatican connection and control of all these people. It's no secret that they created Freemasonry, and he touched on the Knights Templars and all these stories. And when you see this interconnection of the Vatican pagan religion and the worship of Lucifer and all of its tentacles in the United States government, this push to get rid of the Constitution, this push to get rid of God in our schools, and then looking at the United Nations, go to their meditation room and see who they really worship. That's a huge story in itself. United Nations is not there for your best interests. It is there to bring about this one world government, one world control that's going to nab each and every one of the countries and people under its web. It's easier to control people. For example, the federal government, when the 14th Amendment was passed and states' rights were limited, isn't it easier to control people from one strong, just enormous federal government that's usurped this country? There are so many regulations and laws and stuff that once you step out into the world, I'm surprised it's going to get to the point if you don't wear the right size shoe and you don't step on the right piece of the sidewalk, you're going to be in violation of some law. That's why I wake up every day looking to break all these little laws that make no sense. For example, jaywalking. At 5 in the morning, I'm going to jaywalk everywhere I can. And although I'm doing this tongue-in-cheek, these little laws, some of these regulations are so stupid. To adhere to them is to really enslave yourself. So I'm not going to get into a big discussion of man's law, then looking at canon law in the Vatican and how basically fascistic that is. But what I'm going to look at is this general story that people really don't think this is, most people in the world, 90% of them, don't really think this stuff exists. These secret societies are just things in movies and all of this stuff. It's really crazy. And I look every morning. What's the craziest thing I heard today when I woke up? Oh, I woke up and heard Matt Damon. Now, I've talked about Matt Damon before. And Matt Damon sticks his nose in places he doesn't even know what he's talking about. He's a Vaticanite. And I remember going when I was doing a number of research stories on Tony Alamo's ministry and how he was wrongly put in jail. I come across a blog post by Matt Damon who said he's very happy that Tony Alamo's in jail. Now, he knows nothing about this story and just listened to his Vatican leaders tell him what to say, or he heard about it through the media and decided to chime in and save the world. Oh, look at what Matt Damon is saying. Matt Damon has no idea what he's talking about. And he did it again today. He's made, this guy is, you ever see those Jason Bourne movies? The guy plays an assassin. There's more gun violence in these movies in 10 seconds than there is in a year in any nice little small community in America. And he had the audacity, he's doing a premiere in Australia. And he gets on the news and says this: he loves Australia, in one fell swoop took away all the guns from the people of Australia. And he wishes that would happen in America. Matt, you have no idea what you're talking about. The Second Amendment and all the people that fought for it are a lot bigger and stronger and smarter than you are. Just take, for example, you've heard about the old western town where the sheriff wanted to, you came in, he was tired of gun violence. So what he decided to do is everybody in town had to bring their guns into the sheriff's office and put them there. Nobody could carry a gun in his little town. But guess who was carrying guns? All the outlaws. And the gun violence didn't change. So the outlaws had guns, all the good people didn't, and guess what happened? All the good people, out of the good people, got killed. And that's exactly what these socialist democratic people want to do. They want to take weapons from good people who want to protect themselves and then allow criminals to, or the government under a martial law scenario, just run roughshod over you. Don't allow it to happen. Now, I remember when I was in South Dakota, I had a small restaurant, and I got a carry permit, and I used to carry a lot of money to the bank. And so I would, in South Dakota, you can actually put a gun on and I carried it like right in a holster, a small little holster on my side, and people could see it. And I saw a few other people do that. And guess what? Nobody ever bothered me. And it was very good protection. Now, there's another way to protect yourself, and that is to not allow the government to get into the Second Amendment and ruin it and take away your weapons for protection. Good people need protection. It's that simple. Now, to get back to the Vatican, I played this whole thing, and he did some wonderful research on going back throughout, during the French Revolution, the Jacobins and all this stuff. But you have to tie together the Vatican influence in this, where they came. And there have been researchers that have done it. I've talked about many of them. Tupper Saucy was a good one. There's so many others that I have an opportunity to read their books, look at what they did in the past, and piece it all together. And when you start really looking at it, no matter if you're in France or if you're in America or if you're in Russia, the Jesuits had their footprints on everything. And that's why when someone said, Greg, you find a Jesuit under every rock, you better believe I do, because they're there. And if you start looking at the Jesuit connection in our government, you're going to do backflips. And the last really solid one was done back in a number of people do it. If you go through every agency, every major agency, you're going to find Jesuit control. If you go to the School of Foreign Service and our diplomats come out, where did they train? At Georgetown University, right next to the Vatican. Just take a look at Father Edmund Walsh. He was the father of the School of Foreign Service. He was a spy. He brokered the deal with Stalin, brought Western money in a bank book and a check, and basically bribed Lenin to take on Stalin. And guess what happens? You know what happened to Stalin. Stalin, my friends, if you really look into it, was a trained Jesuit priest. You might as well call him Father Joseph Stalin. Look at the connections to the Vatican and Hitler, and all of the people in Hitler's Third Reich, the high level people. They all patterned it off the Jesuit order, and we know that Pope Pius XII mentored Hitler. We also know that Mein Kampf was written not by Hitler, but by a Jesuit priest named Father Stamfel. Now, when you start going into all this stuff, it blows people's minds. They can't wrap their heads around it. So what I'm saying when I say the New World Order is not a conspiracy theory. You cannot research this without trying to get to the bottom of the Vatican, and you're going to have a lot of pitfalls. They've got so many disinformation artists out there. They want to blame everything on the Jews. They want to blame everything on the skull and bones. But when you really look, of course there's Vatican court Jews working for them. Ask the people in Jerusalem or the journalists there that know the truth about Israel and how the Knesset is no different than the U.S. Congress. And playing the Hegelian dialectic with us as if we were pawns in a chess game. And they're the kings and the queens. And no better example of that was just recently. It makes me laugh when I hear that the United States is a country ruled by the rule of law. Yeah, there's laws for us, and then there's laws for the people in the club. We're not in it. Like Hillary Clinton, the owners, the top dogs. She just got away with committing a felony, with using her own public server when she was Secretary of State. She lied 100 million times. The FBI director was probably, political games they're playing. He was forced into a decision. He outlines a case, and I'm pretty well knowing what you have to do to prove a crime. If it's statutory, the statute, either in a criminal case, will say intent or gross negligence can suffice. And in this case, he outlines a case where Hillary Clinton basically was what he called extremely careless and lied. You go on and on and on. He laid out the case perfectly, which she should have been indicted for misusing top secret information on a private email server, and she wiped away the email. She's lied for 16 months on this. And guess what? He lays out a perfect prima facie case and then says, well, we've decided not to bring charges. It makes absolutely no sense. There are two laws. There are different laws for them than there are for us in this system. That's just an aside. And those are the crazy things that I saw going on in the world today. But when you start getting back to our subject here, the Vatican led New World Order. You can go back to my shows, and I pieced it together through researching it with other people, through pulling works from writers who still could write the truth in the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, 1500s. And when you start going back into ancient history, in a sense, you will see the connections of our government and our world today to the ancient pagan religions through these secret societies, controlled and operated, and the big think tanks coming right out of Rome. And that's what you have to look at. So I thought I'd play a 15 to get your head in order here. Instead of going through, this is like trying to eat an elephant, so to speak. You got to go piece at a time, and I can't do it all in one show, but I can take a 15-minute video here done by Bert Krantz of the Alamo Ministry, and he took an article that Tony Alamo wrote in the 80s called The Pope's Secrets, and he put it together in a nice little video form. You can go get it. It's called The Scary Truth About the Catholic Church, Roman Catholic, Jesuit, Pope Exposed, full documentary, in a 15-minute video. Won't take much out of your life. So let's look at that, and I'll get most of it in this half hour, and then we'll finish it up in a second and go on to something very, very interesting regarding the Jesuits, the Flat Earth, and what they have planned for us when they bring their fake alien invasion. Wow. Oh, another thing I found out that made me really, three craziest things I listened to. Then I turn on the news and I hear that there's this space rocket that's going to enter the orbit of Jupiter. that's been traveling for God knows how many years. What, I told them, I said to myself, there is no planet. There are no planets. They're not going there. And it's one of those, we're going to see a bunch of computer images. And this is one of their little steps in bringing this whole idea that we actually live in the solar system they've created. It's all fiction. And they got most people believing the Earth is we're spinning like 1,000,000 miles an hour and all this stuff. I am convinced that's not the way it is. So I don't believe a word they say. I don't believe a word that comes out of NASA. And so let's listen to the scary truth about the Vatican, as said by Bert Krantz, reading a number of things from the Pope's Secrets by Tony Alamo, which is a good 15-minute video to get you started. Here you go. Here you go. And we're going to play that right now.
The Vatican and her people all deserve the Academy Award Oscar for the best performance of innocency and piety, and also for makeup and wardrobe design, making her outward appearance that of Snow White. Underneath her Snow White outfit, there are running, festering sores and ringworm. On the outside, she smiles sweetly and says, "I love you, brother." But behind her bony back, she hides hands that drip with the blood of martyrs. The Vatican is posing as Snow White, but the Bible says that she's a prostitute, the great whore, a cult, Revelation 19:2. She uses government agency branches in every country, including the United States, as her vicious little dwarfs. The more power and control she gets in government, the more she will fade into the background in her Snow White disguise, so that government will be used and blamed for all her evil deeds. Reason: to enforce laws that harass, malign, destroy, and censor everyone and every idea that is not Roman Catholic, so she can sit as the satanic queen, the big whore. Because of her age-old desire to control the world government and church, the serpent-like Vatican has infested the world and U.S. government with so many of her zealous, highly trained, and dedicated Jesuit devotees that she now controls the United Nations, which she created, the White House, Congress, every state, federal, civic, and social government agency, including the U.S. Department of Labor, the IRS, the FBI, the Supreme Court, judicial systems, the armed forces, state, federal, and other police, also the international banking and Federal Reserve systems, called the Illuminati and Agento, labor unions, the mafia, and most of the heavyweight news media. This cult, the Vatican, is very close to replacing our U.S. Constitution with her one-world satanic canon laws of death to the heretic, anyone who is not Roman Catholic. General Lafayette, President George Washington's most respected aide and general, prophetically stated, "If the liberties of the American people are ever destroyed, they will fall by the hand of the Roman Catholic cult's clergy." Today we see the climax of detailed plans given in excerpts from a speech given nearly 50 years ago in Australia by Roman Catholic Archbishop Gilroy. The Roman Catholic motto is "Ourselves alone for fellow Roman Catholics." We must defeat all heretics, non-Roman Catholics, at the ballot box. The Holy Father states that negative tactics are fatal. The demands of the Holy Father, the Pope.
About 3 months ago, my millionaire boss...
Oh, that little interruption is very annoying. When I start playing this presentation, YouTube sticks an advertisement in. It's really ridiculous. Go right ahead.
The demands of the Holy Father, the Pope, are that the public services should be 100% Roman Catholic soon. Care must be taken that no suspicion may be raised when Roman Catholics are secretly given more government jobs than Protestants, Jews, and other heretics. Multi-millions of people have been slaughtered by the Vatican, thus saith the Lord. Revelation 18:24. History bears record to this fact. During the Roman Catholic Inquisition in Europe, 68 million people were tortured, maimed, and murdered by this huge sect. The St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre accounted for the butchering of as many as 100,000 Protestants. Abraham Lincoln blamed the papacy for the Civil War in these words: "This war would never have been possible without the sinister and secretive influence of the Jesuits. We owe it to Popery that we now see our land reddened with the blood of her noblest sons." Lincoln added, "I am for liberty of conscience in its noblest, broadest, and highest sense, but I cannot give liberty of conscience to the Pope and to his followers, the Papists, so long as they tell me through their councils, theologians, and canon laws that their conscience orders them to burn my wife, strangle my children, and cut my throat when they find their opportunity." Because of Abraham Lincoln's many exposés of the Vatican, he was put to death, just as he foretold. Yes, assassinated by the Jesuits under Rome's instructions. The Vatican hasn't changed since Mr. Lincoln's time. JFK's fatal mistake. When John F. Kennedy was asked by the Vatican, "Are you going to go along with the Roman canon law or the U.S. Constitution?" Mr. Kennedy answered them by saying, "The U.S. Constitution." This was President Kennedy's fatal mistake. His assassination was ordered by Rome, then planned and carried out by Jesuits, just as President Lincoln's was. Anyone who knew too much about Mr. Kennedy's assassination was taken care of too. World War II, with its casualties of over 30 million deaths, 6 million Jews, the Holocaust, was conjured up and sponsored by the Vatican. Hitler, Mussolini, and Franco were all members of this sect, the Roman Catholic cult. To win the world not for Christ, but for the Vatican, the Antichrist.
Okay, we're going to take a break, come back, finish this up. We got about 5-6 minutes, and then move on to other things about the Vatican-led New World Order. And I'm playing this because it gives you a good generalization of what they're involved with. And if you start researching each area, for example, the Kennedy assassination, and really do a job on it, and the Lincoln assassination, and all the other things that we talk about, the world wars, the connections to Stalin, you will find they're deeply involved in it. Of course, they're going to deny it. What does a secret society do? They're not going to tell you what they do. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today. so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
Okay, welcome back to the second half hour of the Investigative Journal. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com. Let's get right back to the scary truth about the Vatican-led New World Order.
The turmoil in Central and South America, the tyranny under Jesuit-trained Castro in Cuba and throughout the Caribbean, and the terrorism in Lebanon and Ireland today are the Vatican's handiwork. Now can you see why God calls the Roman Catholic cult the mother of every abomination on earth? Revelation 17:5. Jim Jones, a Roman Catholic Jesuit deacon, posing as a Christian, was sacrificed, not with poisoned Kool-Aid, murdered along with his flock by the Vatican to make the world look narrowly and suspiciously upon innocent Christian retreats. These 6 things doth the Lord hate, yea, 7 are an abomination unto him: a proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, and heart that deviseth wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief, a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren. Proverbs 6:16-19. All these things that God hates, the devilish Vatican is. Did you ever notice that with the Vatican-controlled U.S. customs and immigration, we cannot get out of this country without going through the 3rd degree, searches, radar, etc.? But in the 1960s, when Jesuit Vatican-trained Timothy Leary led our nation's youth into drug addiction. Immigration and customs seemed unable then, as they do now, to detect tens of thousands of pounds of narcotics and drugs entering into our once fair nation via the mafia, which launders all of its illicit, ill-gotten gain, all its black market money, through the Vatican. Maybe this is why President Abraham Lincoln said, "I see a very dark cloud on America's horizon," and that dark cloud is coming from Rome. At the One World Church Convention in Vancouver, some of our volunteers were shocked by the pro-homosexual booths and literature, pro-witchcraft booths and literature, drunkenness and total ungodliness which this universal, world's largest cult and sect exalts. These satanic people call anyone that preaches the true word, which is separation from evil, consecration unto good. They call this a cult or a sect, but they worship this one world organization and its cult leader, the Pope, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he, or a soon-to-come Pope, as God, will soon sit in the temple of God in Jerusalem, showing himself that he is God. 2 Thessalonians 2:4. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish. 2 Thessalonians 2:9-10. They kneel and kiss his reign and feet, and call him Holy Father, which is forbidden in the Bible. They obey his every wish by calling us a cult, who walk in the Spirit and obey God's every wish. They have possibly committed the unpardonable sin, blasphemy of the Holy Spirit, which is never forgiven in this world nor in the world to come. Matthew 12:31-32. But Satan does not care, because he already has blasphemed the Holy Spirit. There are many beautiful people in the Roman Catholic cult who are not wealthy. Some are even very poor, and who are not seeking for high position. Most are very humble. These common people are completely unaware of the wickedness that has been and is being committed by the Roman cult, which they have been told is a church. Because God knows their sincere hearts, he is the God of our heart. He says unto these ignorant people, "Come out of her, my people." Revelation 18:4. So let's pray they will soon. A grim reminder to the satanic superboss, the Pope, who runs the Roman house of prostitution, and the governments that give her power. Your reign is very short-lived, thus saith the Lord. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. Revelation 18:17. And her smoke rose up forever and ever. Revelation 19:3. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. Revelation 16:13. The Jewish priesthood ended at Calvary. Nowhere in the Bible has God ever given authority of priesthood to Italians, Poles, or any other race of people other than the Jews. And out of the 12 Jewish tribes, only from the tribe of Levi did God bring forth priests. This shows that the Vatican is unscriptural and living in a world of fantasy and make-believe. When Jesus said, "It is finished," Jesus became the only high priest. John 19. 1930. The Vatican wants to move from Rome to Jerusalem. On September 26, 1973, the Houston Chronicle reported that the politically power-hungry Henry Kissinger helped this super cult, the Vatican, by proposing that Jerusalem become an international city with the control of holy places and the religious administration being given to the Pope.
Okay, I want to thank Bert Krantz for putting that together, and we've played it. I played it once before on my show, and years ago, talked with Tony Alamo regarding the article he wrote and many other things regarding the Vatican's deceptions, how they're involved in creating this one world order, one world government. I thought what I'd do right now is move forward and talk about this subject. The Jesuits and the global conspiracy. And when I say global, I'm talking about the actual involvement with them, with this, with astronomy, with how they have created maybe even a false picture, which is non-biblical, of the very earth we live in and their involvement in this. And what is the end game? It could be that this one thing we're going to see is a fake alien attack, and they have the technology to do it. So let's look at what this presentation has to say regarding the Jesuits and a global conspiracy. And when I say globe, I mean the actual globe that they say we live on, the sphere they say we live on. Very interesting.
Recent discoveries have uncovered dates, agendas, and goals that connect the Jesuits to a massive deception for the purpose of a multifaceted end-time delusion. The design of this deeply hidden plot has been to change the perception of the masses regarding the authority of the Bible, the correct shape of the earth, the layout of the universe, and the Creator's position in it. This change in perception has prepared minds for the overwhelming delusion to come upon the world under the first woe, the fifth trumpet, prophesied in Revelation chapter 9. This delusion will be a demonic attack under the pretext of an alien invasion. Reportedly, Vladimir Lenin observed, "A lie told often enough becomes the truth." This quote is discovered within the belief of most. The Earth is a sphere. It spins through space while orbiting the Sun, hurtling thousands of kilometers an hour inside our Milky Way galaxy. So ingrained is this belief, if one speaks of the words flat Earth, listeners snicker. The mental reflex of a flat plane from which a person might fall into an infinite space creates this disrespect. A globe Earth, because unproven, is pseudoscience, yet believed worldwide and passed from generation to generation, and any who question it is mocked and ridiculed. For millennia, well-educated people believed the Earth was flat and placed at the center of the universe, enclosed there with a protective covering. In the early 16th century, Nikolai Copernicus introduced a different model of the universe in which the Sun lay at the center and the Earth revolved around it. Copernicus' heliocentric model is taught today, while the earlier geocentric model has been utterly rejected. Less than 100 years later, Galileo was persecuted by the Catholic Church for promoting Copernicus' theory and forced to recant his beliefs and spend the last years of his life under house arrest. Galileo's persecution for promoting heliocentrism is surprising, as the Catholic Church initially supported Copernicus' theories. Consider the following facts. 1. While some sources claim Copernicus never took the vows of a priest, he was a cleric and never married. Furthermore, the fact that in 1537 King Sigismund of Poland put his name on the list of 4 candidates for the vacant episcopal seat of Ermland makes it probable that, at least in later life, he had entered the priesthood. When Pope Paul III sought Copernicus for advice on how to reform the calendar, Copernicus at first demurred to answer. Later, he wrote a series of letters to the Pope containing accurate observations that actually served 70 years later as a basis for the working out of the Gregorian calendar. 3. For a long time, Copernicus refused to publish his beliefs on a heliocentric universe. Finally, in 1531, he published a brief abstract stating his theory in 7 axioms. From this, the concept spread rapidly. 4. 2 years later, Albert Windmanstadt lectured on the Copernican model before Pope Clement VII, an action for which he was richly rewarded. 5. In 1536, Cardinal Schönberg, who was Archbishop of Capua, urged Copernicus to fully publish his theory, or at the least have a copy made at the cardinal's expense. 6. Between 1539 and 1541, Copernicus published and distributed a 66-page letter and a preliminary chapter. 7. Copernicus explained in a letter to Pope Paul III that he finally yielded to the insistent urging of Cardinal Schönberg, Bishop Gies of Culm, and other knowledgeable men, and agreed to publish his manuscript. Copernicus' theory of a heliocentric universe was well known at the upper strata of the Catholic Church in his lifetime. While he preferred his theories published after his death, he ultimately agreed to publish his manuscripts on the persistent appeals of high church officials. Catholics were not first to reject Copernicus' views, for they themselves admit opposition was first raised against the Copernican system by Protestant theologians for biblical reasons. The Catholic Church advanced Copernicus' heliocentric model, constantly urging him to spread it abroad, together with other theories that opposed the sacred scriptures. The necessity to change public conception from an accurate belief in a flat, enclosed earth to a false belief grew slowly. With sapient baby steps, the whole world would become amenable to the final delusion of an alien invasion under the first woe. The Catholic hierarchy had the perfect opportunity to lay groundwork for a global deception to culminate in this Earth's final generation. This deception required a globe Earth spinning throughout the vast reaches of space inhabited by aliens and other sentient life forms. These contrivances created doubt in the Bible, putting science ahead of Scripture, which advises mankind the earth is enclosed and unmoving. They also place the Creator far away from his creation by presenting a universe unimaginably vast. To engineer this transformation in belief, the newly created Society of Jesus, commonly known as the Jesuits, became the agents of change. The Roman Catholic Church was waging war on the new Protestantism believers having come from their own system, while Copernicus was resisting appeals to publish his theory of a heliocentric solar system. Under the approval of Pope Paul III, The Jesuit order was established in 1540, and Copernicus dedicated his book, Revolutions of the Heavenly Bodies, to this very same Pope. This newly formed order, the perfect instrument to implement a clandestine operation for the Pope of Rome, began changing the public perception of the authority of the Scriptures, the earth, and the Creator through the Copernican revolution. By deliberately teaching their followers to invite demonic spirits into their human spirits, the Jesuits exposed what manner of mankind each truly was. The Jesuit founder, Ignatius of Loyola, had taught all members of the Society of Jesus certain spiritual exercises which made them practical, mind-controlled slaves to Satan. They were to daily become as corpses or cadavers, that they unhesitatingly obey the will of their superiors. In opening the mind to the influence of demons, these Jesuits brought in a spirit of malevolence, a demonic intelligence that was unprecedented in Catholicism. Now, satanically controlled, the Jesuit priests became successful in every evil endeavor. They became infamous for their skill at deception and subterfuge, their ability to infiltrate governments and institutions of learning, their standing as advisors to kings and new leaders in education. The very influence they wielded was tantamount to becoming humanly insurmountable. Working through government entities and in the field of world education, they guide scientific research to further their own ends and present the biggest lie of all time, a globe Earth. Following Copernicus' publications, it is probable the Jesuit order has produced more astronomers than any other demographic in Europe. That, ostensibly, a religious order should produce so many scientists should cause surprise. However, as these scientists have focused nearly exclusively in but one area, this gives us reason to question. Upon rejection of the sacred scriptures, which teach us Earth is a fixed, immovable object under a protective covering, a nefarious foundation was laid. Atop this were built perversions designed to force humanity to doubt the very word of our Father Yahuwah. With the biblical geocentric model rejected, a new explanation was required. A globe Earth, its orbit of the sun for millions of miles every year, illimitable realms of space with billions of galaxies, each composed of billions of stars with worlds innumerable. All this became necessary to explain the new heliocentric model of the universe, and mankind, over a short time, lost his divine significance. Thereafter was created an environment within which the writings of Charles Darwin found a receptive audience. Once science showed the Bible wrong, the disparager then diverged from her religious guise altogether. Anything suddenly became possible. There was nothing above question, including how the earth seemed to appear in the vastness of space with all else, and the existence of extraterrestrials. The Big Bang Theory is, today, the leading explanation about how the universe began. At its simplest, it talks about the universe as we know it, starting with a small singularity, then inflating over the next 13.8 billion years to the cosmos that we know today. Priest Andrew Pinsent holds advanced degrees in theology from the Pontifical Gregorian University in Rome, as well as a doctorate in particle physics from Oxford. In January 2015, he wrote, "Being both a priest and a former particle physicist at CERN, I am often asked to give talks on faith and science. Quite often, young people ask me the following question: how can you be a priest and believe in the Big Bang? To which I am delighted to respond: we invented it. Or more precisely, priest George Lemaitre invented the theory that is today called the Big Bang, and everyone should know about him.
Okay, I'm going to break it off there. It's interesting. Got about 20 minutes to go, and I'm going to play that tomorrow because it's giving us a good background in how the heliocentric theory was created. And oh boy, this is a subject that, like I said many times, when you deal in belief systems, when people have deep-rooted beliefs, it is important that you question those belief systems. I'm talking about believing in man's theories and understand where they come from. And the idea, what Lenin said was, Hitler said, the bigger the lie, the more people believe it. And the more you tell lies, the more they become the truth. Is pretty apropos here. I suggest reading Genesis again, looking at how the scriptures talk about the earth being created, and then take a good look at this fake agency NASA and what they've really done there to create what I call one of the biggest hoaxes in the history of mankind. It's much larger than just the moon landing hoax. And once you start looking at this, getting a good basis in history, it isn't so crazy when you start talking about the earth not being a globe. And I've done a lot of different little experiments when you're out on the ocean and things with the horizon that make me believe we're onto something. Back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal. Have a good evening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.